Hello, IGN. My name is Jose Otero, and I'm here with Brian Altano.
Hi, Jose.
Brian, we're going to play The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword.
Ooh, I remember this one.
It's been a while.
It has been a while. This one, this is a Zelda game that kind of came out towards the end of the Wii's life, and for some people it sort of slipped through the cracks because a lot of people had kind of moved on from the Wii at that point.
Or were ready to, yeah. No,
or
absolutely.
ready to,
yeah. Oh,
but this actually sort of exemplified everything they were trying to do with motion controls on the Nintendo Wii, and this was the first ground up built Legend of Zelda game for the Wii. You know, we had Twilight Princess, which sort of lived between the worlds of the GameCube and the Wii.
It was sort of retrofitted to be a Wii game versus this, which was actually ground up, using Motion Plus.
Yep.
And more importantly, using all of the things I feel they learned from experiments like Wii Sports Resort and figuring out, okay, this is the way that we can leverage this controller to make a game.
Yeah.
So this is sort of a point in the game where after we've done the intro already, Link has now gotten his green outfit, his tunic. According to the storyline, too, this is sort of the legend that sets up the legend of Zelda.
That's right.
Yeah, this is the beginning of everything.
This is the first Zelda game ever in the timeline, which is a very confusing timeline.
Oh yeah, well that's a whole other can of worms for sure.
Yeah, as you can see, they took a really kind of interesting and beautiful design aesthetic with this game. They went for this sort of painterly kind of watercolor look to everything. To me, it sort of feels like somewhere between Ocarina of Time with some Wind Waker elements to it.
Pear likes to describe it as Paz Easter eggs, which I don't agree with 100%. I thought it was a little better than that. But what I love that they do from a distance is, oh, we have the adventure pouch.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. One of the things I like that they do from a distance, though, is that everything loses definition further away, and it does look very painterly, almost.
It does, yeah.
I'm trying to think of specific artists.
If you look in that back room back there right now.
That's a great example of that,
shot,
right?
Yeah,
right
everything's sort of blurred out. You have this sort of, it looks almost like pointillism. Just little dabs of paint kind of piecing everything together, and the more you get to the foreground, the more things are focused.
Yeah, and if we run back there, you'll see it in action right now, whereas we slowly get closer, you see sort of definition happens, and you see a lot more detail up close, but from further away, and you'll see it more in the overworld, but let's leave right now.
Yeah.
How do we get out of school? Okay, how do you get out of school?
How do you get out of school?
There's a winning thing kids want to know. You graduate.
You graduate. You stay there until you graduate.
That's right.
Don't drop out of school.
All right. So now we're outside. The bazaar is a really cool place, though, in Skyloft.
Yeah.
And here's Fi, who is sort of Link's companion. She is the sort of spirit of the goddess sword, the sword that's on his back right now.
She lives in your sword, right?
Yeah, and she pops out with helpful advice. Some would say she pops up a little too much for their liking.
She's sort of your Navi, you know, in this game.
Yes. Hey, listen, I got something to tell you.
Yeah, exactly. But she says a lot more than just those three things.
Yeah, she's still going.
A lot more. So
that said, though, it does sort of she is a big part of the story because I feel out of all the Zeldas, this was one that story was a huge deal to them.
Yeah.
And you can see that it may be some of the reasons why this game has been kind of divisive for some folks.
Yeah,
some people really
fairly
praise
polarizing.
it and love it. Yeah, and other people go, hey, this may have been too far into the story camp for my liking. So that's
hey, what are you doing? No!
Jumping. Oh, how do you call the bird again? I forget.
Down on the D-pad.
Oh, down on the D-pad. There we go.
Jesus, Jose.
Without
a parachute. What's wrong with you?
So here we go. Here's I believe this is a loft wing. And
yeah.
So here's a look at the overworld. And this was, again, something that was pretty ambitious for its time. You're using the Wii pointer as sort of a plane. And we're supposed to head over there right now to what should be Farron Woods, if I remember correctly.
So Skyloft's kind of a cool starting area for a Zelda game. Like, you know, usually you're kind of grounded in reality, but here you have this kind of like Bespin-esque Cloud City situation going on.
Yeah, you do actually. Yeah.
Where like a lot of the game takes place in the sky, and to get to different areas, like the wooded areas or the like forests and water areas and lava areas, you have to fly to them.
Yeah.
And you're over. It's sort of like the sky is. It's sort of what the Wind Waker did for the ocean. This game does for the sky.
Yes.
And it's kind of interesting to see. It makes the world feel a little disjointed, but if you figure out some of the quick ways to get around, it gets a little easier.
Yep. I agree.
But yeah, it's got a lot of personality too.
And it does have a lot of personality. There's definitely a lot of effort on the graphics side. Like you see a lot of like objects flapping in the wind. Like even though this was Wii technology, I feel like they definitely went as far as they could in terms of what they could do.
Yeah, and you know, in traditional Nintendo fashion, they kind of like they took this art style and they really just ran with it, or flew with it,
or owned it,
and owned it, soared with it. What are you doing? Hey,
I'm going in.
I think no, you're
way
way off.
I'm working on it. Calm down. There we go.
Getting me nervous.
I'm trying to get this moving.
And how does he land? This is kind of ridiculous.
Don't forget, you get the parachute from Zelda.
That's
she gives you sort of a cloth that you'll use to land. Hopefully I get this right, because I haven't done this. So I haven't played this game since I reviewed it in 2011, I believe it was.
And you read it for 1UP, right?
For 1UP.com. Right. Unfortunately, you
Rest
can't find the review. Yeah, RIP, but I don't think the review is online anymore.
What?
Some site maintenance issues. But I think I have it archived somewhere if anyone ever wants to see it.
Great.
Here we go. Sailcloth.
You did it. Oh, man, you cut it really close right there.
No, actually, I think it was automatic there.
Oh, good.
Yeah. So we're actually going to, and there she is again, Fi, ready to give us some context.
Always something to say.
Yeah, always. No, but I do respect, even though the Wii was sort of, you know, up against the consoles that it was up against. It
was underpowered.
Yeah,
you can say it.
It definitely was. But I still feel like what we pointed out earlier, they got a lot of mileage out of this.
Yeah.
Out of the look, and you know, you don't. I guess there's still something worth saying about that. And it still looks really good today. I mean. Granted,
it actually does. Which is odd because I almost have a better respect for it now than I did when it first came out. I remember a lot of us had already moved on to you know, playing a lot more HD next gen games, and it was kind of tough to go back to the Wii because some of us had moved on from the Wii.
Oh yeah.
And it was tough to go back and play a game that looked like this, but I think it aged better than I really expected it to, which Nintendo has a great knack for doing that when they do stick with an art style. Now, as you can see, this is actually
getting munched on this planet.
Jose's getting eaten because this is a little different than just fighting your average enemy in, say, Ocarina of Time or Majora's Mask. Just your targeting doesn't work anymore. You have your lock on.
Well, and someone left the town without a shield.
I mean, depending on the way this creature's mouth is open, is the way you will strike down with your sword, and the game is actually pretty sensitive about the way it handles those things. So now you've got two enemies, and their mouths are facing different directions. So one of them needs a horizontal strike, and one of them needs a vertical. And if you try it the wrong way, you're not going to cut through that enemy.
Yeah, it just bounces off.
It'll bounce right off.
Yeah, and there are other enemies that they'll block in certain directions, and you have to navigate past the block or find the opening, and the window's really small. And some people really don't like to praise this game for its motion controls. I think actually motion controls were not the detractor to this game. I feel like they did a lot with what they had, and it totally was fine for me. I went from start to finish when I reviewed this thing, and the motion controls were never really the hurdle. For me, the hurdle was more the linearity, which I wasn't really used to in Zelda. And granted, some people say, well, Zelda games are supposed to be linear. I agree, they are, but I felt like dowsing specifically was just a way that they sort of lost track, and they constantly went back to dowsing.
Yeah. So what Jose is describing, dowsing is a mechanic in this game that you use your Wiimote, you point it at the screen, and you kind of move it around like it's a Zelda age metal detector.
Compass.
And, compass. And you kind of like it beeps depending on how close you are to certain things that you need to get.
Oh yeah.
And hey, we just saw this enemy in Skyward Sword.
We did.
In Hyrule Warriors. That's right.
You and I fought him.
That's right. So it was very polarizing because it sort of pads the length of the game maybe in a way it shouldn't. I think that if you know what you're doing, it goes a little smoother. But if you're kind of lost pointing the Wii remote around, it gets a little cumbersome, and it's actually kind of frustrating.
Yeah, and just to wrap up that point, I feel like dowsing was a way that they wanted to sort of make the game more open, but in a sense, it didn't really have that natural progression. And also, when I say the linearity stuff, I felt like there wasn't enough like alternate side quests.
Yeah.
Like Skyloft felt really underutilized. And there were some like rinse repeat quests that you just constantly went on and again and again and again.
Yeah.
And here's the sealed grounds. Let's give an example.
But I do think that when you're in a boss battle, when you're in a temple, when you're solving puzzles, like when you're really into like the deep nitty gritty of what a Zelda can be, this game does it. You know, it's up there with some of the best. It actually does really, really cool stuff. Now, one thing you'll notice, another thing that kind of angered people, that little citrus lime that pops up down there, that's Link's energy meter, and I don't mean health. I mean,
dashing.
it does look like a lime, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does it.
He gets tired when you run too much or do too many actions physically. It might be sort of a precaution to keep the human character controlling the game from getting too tired moving its arms around. But it was actually kind of weird to see that in a Zelda game, because I know playing something like Ocarina of Time, you can run across Hyrule Field for the rest of your life, however long you want to. You never get
had
tired.
some cool discoveries for doing so, and that was sort of a cool thing too. That was part of that game that wasn't so much here. That said, so the evil aura, the Skyward Strike, these are all coming back to me. Man, it's been a while.
Yeah, and this was actually, pretty huge for its time. Was the first time you could sort of hold the sword up in the air with the Wiimote in your hand and do like Link does and kind of just raise that sword up to the sky. And now this light beam comes down on it, which is pretty cool.
So the moment you pull the goddess sword from the stone is still one of the coolest moments I felt ever in a Wii game.
Yeah, totally.
Because you are the physical participant. You are instructed to turn the Wii remote upside down. Hold down, I think, the A button, and then you pull it out of the stone. And that was such a cool moment. It was really thinking about, okay, how do we get people invested in motion control and really get them to kind of be the hero? Yeah,
it's that classic sort of sword in the stone moment that from that lore, or for me, for that Disney movie. Pulling that sword out of the stone for the first time, there's something really powerful to be said about that, and it happens in this game. But there was a lot of strange decisions in this game. Like, for one, the overlay of constantly having a Wii remote on screen.
Well, and you can take that off, though.
I remember, like, that was one of the first things I popped into the settings and was like, please get rid of that, because it's it was kind of distracting.
I'm searching for Zelda right now. See, this is dowsing in action, and this was sort of what I felt was, ooh, okay, she is in that direction. So knowing that, let's put this sword away.
It is sort of like there was that sort of classic story of somebody in the desert or in the woods looking for water, holding a stick out, walking around. That's kind of what inspired that, which probably looks stupid back then. I still don't understand how that works in real life, if it does at all. And I'm not particularly convinced it works in this game, but it's something that exists. And this is actually something kind of cool too, slicing the grass blades for the first time.
Well, in combat, for the most, it was 1-to-1.
Jose's having a lot of trouble with that. There we go.
No, I'm actually just trying to show how the swings work.
Blowing some air on it, fanning it.
Fanning it. Yeah, that's what I'm doing. All right, so I'm trying to get in here, and this is the first time you meet a mysterious helper, who you later discover her identity. Yeah. So not as much combat here, I guess, in this video, because we are recapping our favorite 125 Nintendo games. This is definitely deserves to be on the list because of what it did. And its place, I feel, in the Wii software library, and I think you agree with me.
Yeah.
And there she is. That is quite the pointy hat.
Yeah, they do a lot of really cool stuff with character design in this game, particularly some of the enemies you fight. Who's your main villain in this game?
Well, it starts out as Girahim, but then you learn of Demise.
And, Girahim is just a very weird dude.
Yes, with the tongue and all that.
He does a lot of weird stuff with his mouth. He's sort of like. He's kind of like vaguely sexual about his poses and stuff like that.
Yeah, he's the most effeminate villain I think they've had.
Yeah. So he's just kind of like quirky, moves his arms and legs in weird ways. And you're sort of like, what's up with this guy?
He's strange. Well,
he's strange, but like scary strange.
Yeah, Yuka was like that too in Between Worlds.
Yeah.
But to a less degree. Yeah. Like at least Yuka was kind of always talking about painting, whereas Girahim was I don't remember his dialogue quite as much. Well, there you have it, folks. This is a quick look at Skyward Sword, one of our top 125 Nintendo games. Definitely one of our favorites. If you want to keep up with more of these, make sure you come right back to this very spot, this website called
IGN. I know about that place.
.com.